What's going on, horror fans? This is Bronco Juggalo coming at you with another review slash ranking video. Today I'm going to be doing a review slash ranking of the Jeepers Creepers franchise. All three movies, one video. So we are going to start with a little bit of quick information about these films. They were all three done and directed by Victor Salva. They were written, directed, and I also believe he owns the rights to these films. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy around Victor Salva. I am not going to get into that in this review. I'm going to just discuss these movies on their merits as movies. That is all. If you want another video, maybe we can do another video later. We'll talk about that. Right now, we're just doing the video, the movies. So, this franchise starts off with Jeepers Creepers 1. It basically follows a brother and sister who are coming home from spring break to their parents' house in somewhere in rural Florida. And they're driving along the highway and they almost get run off the road by a truck. A big old truck. And then they see the old truck a little later parked at a church, and they see a guy dumping what appears to be a body down a hole. So, long story short, they investigate. The guy leaves, they investigate, and sure enough, there's a body down there, plus a bunch of other bodies sewn onto the walls, things like that. And it turns out that this thing is actually a demon called the Creeper, and for whatever reason, the song Jeepers Creepers has been associated with this thing, so it plays whenever he comes around, or he was playing it. Couple things about this movie I don't understand. Couple things I didn't like about this movie. Actually, there was a lot I didn't like about this movie. There's a lot I didn't like about this entire franchise. Truth be told, this entire franchise was a little bit hard for me to get through. I've actually owned Jeepers Creepers 1 and 2 for about 6 years or 7 years now, and I've never been able to watch them all the way through. I've tried watching Jeepers Creepers 1 about 3 times, and every time we get to the part where they go to investigate the tube that he's throwing the bodies down, looks like a sewer drain type tube or a tunnel, I fall asleep. Every single time I fall asleep right then and there. These movies are honestly a little bit boring for me. They are not very scary. In the first movie, the Creeper is actually seen right away almost. He's seen within the first 15 minutes of the film. And then as you get further on into the film, as they are trying to get away, as they're trying to survive, they show more and more of the Creeper, and this is not your typical horror movie villain. He's very out in the open, takes on the cops, does everything. It turns out that this thing is actually a demon that comes out every 23 years for 23 days to feed. As he is injured by bullets or anything else, as he is injured, he eats people and he uses their body parts to heal himself. It seems like a really cool concept if it was done a little better. Honestly, I think it would have been a very much better movie. So that is basically the entire synopsis of the first film. By the end of the first film, and there are going to be spoilers in these videos, so by the end of the first film, the brother is dead. The Creeper flies off with him, and we can all assume that he dies, and then they show that he actually was. The Creeper had removed his eyeballs and punched out the back of his head, and the camera ends with us going in through his eyes, and then the Creeper's eyes coming through. For a movie that had a minimum budget, I guess they did okay on the look of things, but I was very disappointed in the special effects used on the Creeper itself, especially its flight and its wings. It looked very fake. It did not look good at all. I'm going to expand on that in a little bit here. So, in that first movie, there was a lot I just did not like in the movie. This entire franchise, like I said, was very difficult for me to wrap my head around. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't a very great film. In the second movie, it is immediately, well, they say, I believe it was the next day or the day after that, following the first film, and there is a school bus full of kids coming back from a basketball game. It's the state basketball champions, I believe it was. They had just won the game. There's 3 cheerleaders, there's 2 coaches, the bus driver, and the team. And they're driving back along the highway, and all of a sudden they get a blowout. And they go to check the blowout, and there's what basically looks like a ninja star, a shuriken, made out of bone that's been fossilized, and body parts and skin and tendons that's all been hardened and fossilized in the tire. And so they pull it out, and they decide to limp on forward. They don't know what it is. They can't figure it out. They're tripped out by it, but they decide to go on. And then, boom, they get another blowout. And when they go to look again, there is another one in their tire. And this one looks like a tattoo right in the middle, and it just happens to be the tattoo of a rose that was around the brother in the first movie's belly button. He had a rose tattoo around his belly button, and it's on there. So I'm assuming, and we can all assume, that was made from him. The creeper appears, starts picking off the teachers, starts pulling them up into the sky, picks off the teachers, picks off the bus driver, and he starts going after all the kids. And the creeper is choosing its victims, I guess, based off of the fear that they have for it. The more fearful they are, the more it wants them or desires them. It actually picks and chooses which ones it wants. And I will also say this again, not very scary. To me, it was not scary at all, honestly. It was very, very light toned film. The first film was very light. It was mostly during the day, in my opinion. There was a lot of daylight scenes. The second film, kind of the same deal. It's during the day for the most part, well, at first. But then it does go into the night and it gets a little darker, and I kind of appreciated that. I was thankful for that. One thing about the second film I have to say is they did step up the effects quite a bit, and the creeper itself was stepped up quite a bit. I thought the CGI flight, the way he looked, was done so much better in this film. He actually looked really good. I liked the way he flew. I liked the way his body worked and his wings worked and his face and everything. It looked really good. There's one part in this film that I definitely want to tell you about and get into. It's probably, in my opinion, the best part in the entire trilogy of films. There was a girl on the bus. I don't remember her name. She is mostly a throwaway character. All these characters are throwaway characters. And she has a javelin that she pulled out from under the seat, like the track and field type of javelins. And she knows that the creeper is up on the top of the bus because he just reached down and tried to grab somebody and pull him up through the top. And while he's reaching down and he's grabbing this guy, she gets the javelin and she jabs it up through the roof of the bus. And it goes right into his eye, comes out the back of his head, and you see the point of the javelin way up here with his eyeball attached to the tip. I thought that was pretty cool. So the creeper drops the kid that he's trying to get, and he grabs the javelin and he pulls it this way, and he can't get it out. So he pushes it back this way, and he can't get it out. And he pulls it, then he pushes it, and he cannot remove this thing from his head. And I found that to be very funny. I thought it was very cool looking as well. They did a very good job on that. And the imagery that I got from it, and this may be just my sick mind, is that basically he was skull fucking himself with the javelin. Finally, he gets tired of it, and he actually rips the javelin out through the side of his head, pulling off part of his head, which was also pretty cool looking. They actually, like I said, they did a very good job on the look of the creeper and the effects that were pertaining to him. The special effects in this movie completely were stepped up from the last movie. Oh, as they're waiting and as they're trying to get away, they, leave the bus, they come back to the bus, they leave the bus again. All these kids, a father and son that are coming after the creeper to kill it because it killed one of the son's other children, are trying to hunt down this creeper, and they've made basically a big homemade harpoon gun out of this pile driver from a tractor. So they are trying to kill it. They fight the thing. It kills it. At least we assume that it kills it for at least 23 more years. And the father, ends up putting it up at his house with his son and charging people admittance to see it. And that's how the movie ends. One thing about this movie, I thought that was a little bit different. As I said, these movies to me were not scary at all. But I will say this, in the second movie, when the creeper's just kind of like right there outside the window of the bus, he's got his face on the bus like this. He does very much remind me, the name Creeper really fits him at that point, because to me it reminds me of an old school pervert, like really just perverted, creep, just sniffing around, looking at the, whatever in the bus. And I almost wonder about that, given the nature of the things that the director and the writer of this film, served time for, was accused of. It did make me wonder. That's all I'm really going to say about it. But anyways, that was just my thought. But the movie, I think, was actually quite a bit better than the first one. It was just a better film all around. On to the third film. The third film was a little bit different. There was a lot of things, because the drama with the director had just come to light, and the owner of the rights and the writer had just come to light. They yanked the film from theaters. They only gave it one day in theaters and yanked it. And basically it went straight into Netflix and straight to DVD. The third movie is actually, from what I've seen from fans of this series and other movie reviewers, is universally considered the worst of the three films. It's generally hated. It was a little bit different than the others. It was supposed to take place between the first two films. As in, the creeper in the first movie was on day like 17, 18 of his reign of terror or whatever. Maybe day 19 or 20, I'm not exactly sure. And the last film was on day 23, 22, 23. This film is supposed to be around in between those, like in day 20, 21, 22, somewhere in there. And that was actually supposed to be like a big twist ending at the end of the film, but they announced it right. That's what the entire film is based off of. Is that it immediately follows the first film, because they are the cops are still at the location of the first movie where they fought the creeper, and they're impounding his truck. And so it really wasn't a twist. It was something that everybody saw coming right away. So I don't really get how that's a twist. I don't understand that part of it, but why it was considered a mystery, because it's not. Anyways, as I said, the movie takes up right at the end of the first film. Exactly at the end of the first film. The girl that survived from the first movie, her brother is dead. She survived. She's still in the police station waiting for her family to come and get her. The cops are all outside. They're impounding the truck. And all of a sudden, this special team shows up, led by he looks like he's wearing a sheriff badge, so I assume he's part of the sheriff's department. But they all have special patches of a skull with a bat wing as in these are a specialty force that is actually there just for the creeper. So obviously somebody knew about this for a while, and then they talk about it a little bit, and it turns out that the guy, the leader of it, the team, was a survivor from 23 years before when he was younger. And we cut over to these new group of kids. It's going to be, fodder for the creeper, basically. Or at least that's what it's supposed to be. And then we get the backstory of the main girl, the final girl in the film. Her grandmother, who she lives with, lost her other son, not her parents, her other son, to the creeper 23 years before. And it turns out that he had taken a piece of the creeper, taken it home to his farm, and buried it. And now the creeper is going after them to get this piece back. Because if they touch any part of it, of the creeper that's been dismembered, then they know what the creature is and they can learn its secrets. None of that was mentioned in the previous movies. None of that. In the previous two movies, he was leaving body parts all over the place. And that never happened. They are, once again, trying to battle the creeper. Now they have a bunch of guys of specialty cops, a whole team, trying to go after the creeper. And of course, the creeper kills them all one by one. He gets his truck back. He uses his truck, which has all kinds of death traps and things built into it. And it even has like little rolling landmines that are like heat-seeking landmines or whatever. It pops them, it shoots them out the back of the truck, and they roll along, and it goes and it finds the car that's chasing them, and it blows them up. And then he can shoot it. He can move his tailpipe into position and shoot a giant harpoon spear with a cable attached to it. When he opens the back doors of the truck, if there's somebody trying to escape the truck or get in the truck, some giant blades can come down and come together like jaws and kill the person. Inside the truck, there's knives and swords and axes and things all over the walls. And then there's pipes that come shooting out the sides of the truck to impale people, which the creature himself actually gets impaled on while he's trying to kill one of his victims. It's the next morning, it's daylight, and the two main characters, who are now boyfriend and girlfriend, are saying goodbye to one another. And I guess this is where the twist was also supposed to come in. As he tells her goodbye, he tells her to watch his truck, and he grabs his bag and he grabs a jacket out of the back of his pickup. And he puts the jacket on, and it's a basketball letterman's jacket. And he climbs onto the bus that is actually the bus that is attacked in the second film. Here's the problem I have with that. Cool idea in a way to do that, especially if they would have made it a little more ambiguous to where we didn't know that the third film was taking place directly after the first and somewhere in between the first and second, it would have been a little bit better. But here's the one problem I really have with that. On that bus in the second movie, there is not a character, and I know that now it's much later, they have to get different teenage actors. But there is not a single actor that either looks anything like this actor or has the name of the character. The character's name was Buddy, and there is no Buddy in the second film. So they want us to believe this kid was on the bus and, he ends up dying in the second film. But he's not actually on the bus in the second film. So I think it was like they just kind of made this movie up as they went along. And it does kind of you can feel that. So that's how the series, no, that's not correct. That's not how it totally ends. At the very end of the movie, there is a scene that was a teaser towards a fourth film, which I personally don't think we're ever going to see with all the controversy with the director and all that now out in public. I don't think we're ever going to see that film unless somebody else gets the rights to these films. Because as far as I can tell, he owns the rights. Because he is the only one that has done all three of these movies. He directs, writes, produces everything on these movies. So I don't see this fourth film getting made. And honestly, I don't care if it does or not. So, okay. That's the synopsis and review. Here's my ranking. Coming in at number 3. And I know this ranking is probably going to shock quite a few people that are, especially those that are fans of this series, but this is how I feel about it. I'm sorry. Coming in at number 3, we have Jeepers Creepers, the original. I'm sorry. This film to me was just terrible. It is so boring. It is a great concept. It is a great idea. But they didn't do it well. And everything in it looked so fake. I was so bored. Like I said, I owned this movie for 6 years. And every time I tried to watch it, I fell asleep at the exact same point in the film. That's how slow and boring this movie is to me. So I'm sorry, but the Jeepers Creepers original is my bottom of the barrel of this set franchise. And if I had to rank this franchise among other horror franchises, this franchise would be towards the bottom of the barrel. So there may be one or two that are below it, but we'll get into those maybe at a later date. So coming in at number 2 on my ranking is Jeepers Creepers 3. Now, like I said before, everybody that reviews this movie absolutely hates it that I've seen so far. Personally, I thought it was way better than 1. There was a lot of stuff that they didn't explain. There was a lot of stuff that wasn't needed in the story. And like I said, it kind of felt like they were making the movie up as they went along. But it actually had some decent killing moments. It had some decent special effects moments. And it had a much better tone, in my opinion, and a darker tone than the first movie did. One thing about this movie that I did not like was that they put all that stuff into the truck. And here's one of my beefs with basically this entire franchise. 1, why does a demon who can fly need a truck? Why? He's got super strength, he can fly, he can pick up people and carry them off. Why does he need a truck? I don't get it. It makes no sense. Is the truck cool to watch or look at? Sure. And they used it in the third movie, in my opinion, better than they did in the other 2. But there was really no point to it. I don't understand why it's even in the movie. Some of the things the Creeper uses, the shurikens, spears that he's made that have like old etching designs and stuff on them, knives. Why does he need these things? Even the battle axe, which I think is a really cool thing, it's not something he needs. He has claws. He has both his hands and his feet. He can grab you up out of the sky. He can bite into you. He's got fangs. He has this thing on his head that comes out and it almost makes him look like kind of like a crab monster or something. There was actually I remember what it is now. Kind of makes him look like one of the characters from the second Pirates of the Caribbean film. One of the pirate, creatures. Kind of reminds me of that. But, so yes, I'm sorry, fans of this franchise. I thought the third movie was better than the first movie. I'm sorry, it is. That's my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. You can blast me in my comment section if you want. But that's how I feel about it. It was a better movie. So, all that's left is my number 1, and that is Jeepers Creepers 2. I felt that this movie was leaps and bounds better than the first one, but it's still a terrible movie, just like the third one is still a terrible movie. I thought the Creeper was much more, not scary, that's not the word I want to use, but definitely creepy. Like I said, he kind of reminded me of a pedophile. And he looked a lot better. His effects were done so much better, probably the best in the series. And that one thing that I told you about with the spear and being skull-fucked, that to me was so cool looking. It was very awesome. I really enjoyed that part. The rest of the kills, I just didn't get into. I didn't like. There's a part in this movie where the father and son team that are hunting him with the big giant harpoon gun is strapped to the back of a pickup truck. And the creature actually flips the pickup truck over and crashes it while he's being harpooned because he's pulling it and he's flying and he can pull this entire vehicle even though it's in gear and they're pulling against him. He flips the vehicle over. And then at the end of the movie, here comes driving down the road looking almost like nothing had happened to it. It had a few dents in it. And, I was like, okay, that makes no sense. But there it is, guys. There's my review. As far as these movies go, if you don't already own them, don't buy them. They are definitely not buy-worthy. In my opinion, they aren't even see-worthy. If you are a fan of these films, I apologize if you don't like that, but I thought these films were terrible. As I said, Bride of Chucky, Jeepers Creepers, Halloween. That's my horror ranking for, how I gauge horror movies. Those are the things I base them on, and the worst is Seed of Chucky, pretty much. That's almost the worst horror film I ever know of, with the exception of, actually there's a lot, but so Jeepers Creepers is only a couple steps above that. There is not much to say about these movies that is good. That's it, guys. That is my entire ranking of the Jeepers Creepers franchise. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Alright, guys, later on this week, I'm going to be dropping my Star Wars ranking or my Batman rankings. So look forward to those. I hope those are educational, and I also hope that they are entertaining for you guys, because I have some ideas for them. And Star Wars is my favorite film franchise of all time, and I can't wait to do that video. And I also can't wait to do the Batman franchise videos, because I love Batman as well. It's one of my favorite comics and my favorite comic movies. So I will be doing those. I will also be bringing part 3 of my Nightmare on Elm Street series. So stay tuned, guys. I've got more content coming your way. But as for tonight, you've just been creeped. Peace.